Hi, this weekend I went to see 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, the sequel continuation of the 28 Things Later series, revived last year by 28 Years Later. And this is a direct continuation of that film. Danny Boyle has left the director's chair vacant, and instead Nia DaCosta, most recently director of Marvels and the Little Scene Header, takes over as director. So an unusual choice, but I think it works. And Alex Garland continues to write the movies. The film follows directly from the end of the previous film, which I am going to have to spoil. The movie came out 6 months ago. The publicity has shown that various characters in that film are dead, so you're going to have to roll with this a little. But young Spike has been forcibly inducted into the cult of Sir Lord Jimmy Crystal, a self-styled antichrist who believes that the plague of the rage virus is Satan's judgment on earth and that he is his son, hearing him in his head, his voice in his head. He has his fingers, the seven acolytes who all dress like him in tracksuits and blonde wigs, whom he sends out to do his bidding, to murder, mutilate, and otherwise terrorize survivors. Meanwhile, Dr. Ian Kelson, played by Ralph Fiennes, has been maintaining his bone temple, an ossuary of bones and mainly skulls of those who have died as a result of the outbreak, both infected and victims of the infected. When one of Sir Lord Jimmy's fingers sees him, they think that they actually is Satan, this strange bald figure with red skin, as a result of the iodine he uses as a disinfectant. And so Jimmy Crystal goes to Kelson and demands that he act as Satan in return for consolidating his power and not killing him, while Kelson himself has been experimenting with a local infected alpha, who he has nicknamed Samson, and discovers that there is perhaps the chance that the infection can be cured. This is the best film in the series. And the strength of it lies in the intelligence of it and the respect I think it has for the audience to go with the intelligent elements and also be able to stomach the horrific brutality. This is also the most violent film of the series. It is very gory. It is very brutal. There are scenes of violence committed by the fingers that are horrifying, and several characters die in ways much more horrible than simply being savaged by one of the infected. But it contrasts the two approaches. The film I think, has two major themes. The psychological response to the end of the world is the first. On the one hand, you have Kelson, once a GP, still kind, compassionate, trying to do his best, trying to help, trying to memorialize those who have lost their lives as a result of the outbreak, but also trying to find ways to cure the infected, trying to experiment and treating infected people as though they are still human beings and not ravening monsters. And perhaps finding a way that the infection can be fought, that even the infected people could possibly even be cured. On the other hand, you have Jimmy Crystal, who we saw the prologue of the previous film, was a young boy when the outbreak happened and has, as a result of his trauma of seeing his own real father, a church minister, infected and going insane, has become psychotic and believes himself to be the Antichrist. Even hearing, as I say, hearing the voice of Satan in his own head. And his response is to turn the world into what he believes it is, which is hell on earth, by torture and maiming and murder, and exploiting and corrupting others to his cause, including the unfortunate Spike, who was forced to participate in horrific acts of torture. So you have the benevolent and the malevolent response, and one attempting to influence the other. And there are scenes of Crystal and Kelson talking, and they speak very calmly and quietly. Once even once Crystal understands that Kelson is just a man, he is not Satan, they still talk very amicably and have an exchange of ideas and can still communicate until, of course, Crystal starts to threaten him to get Kelson to do what he wants. And I thought this was so fascinating that just taking the time to have these two completely different people exchange ideas and to try and understand each other's point of view as something totally alien to themselves. I thought that was such a brave, original choice for a horror movie. Everything about this, it takes all the things that conventional studio horror movies they do badly, and it does them in so much more interesting ways. It's not, cheap jump scares like Conjuring movies. It's violently, graphically violent. Um, it doesn't hold back on the brutality at all, but it knows that that's inherent in the environment, but also it has that intelligence to it. It has this philosophical element. The other part is the other main theme, I would say, is Crystal's, uh, or rather, sorry, Kelson's um, position as a father to two different characters, of being kind and caring for this infected Alpha and try to care for him and try to help him recover. And the other hand, Crystal seeing him as his potential father, as this this Satan figure that he needs to extend his power. The twin elements of fatherhood, of being the kind and compassionate one or being the cruel dominator. It's such an interesting, well thought out film. It's so engaging. The violence repels you as it should, and it doesn't soft pedal that at all because it needs to be violent. It needs to be horrific. It needs to be terrifying because of the environment that you're in. But you have wonderful performances. Ralph Fiennes, I mean, it's a long time since Ralph Fiennes has been as brilliant as he is in here. Kelson is such an interesting and engaging character. He's completely human. He's completely believable. Um, I, I, I didn't realize how funny the film was going to be. I mean, this Fiennes even drops a Spinal Tap reference, which was totally in character, totally made sense in context, and it got a laugh out of the audience, even though the context was in a very tense situation. Jack O'Connell as Crystal is a monster. He's uh, perhaps one of the great film monsters of the last few years. Someone who is completely convinced that he is right. I was expecting the reveal to be that he only believes in this story about being the Antichrist as a way of controlling other people. But no, he is absolutely sincere. He genuinely believes he is the Antichrist sent to Earth to bring about hell. Um, and his character's conflict and his his means of control of his followers and his victims, I thought was so engaging and so interesting. It's a psychologically rigorous film, and I really enjoyed it. I realized how long this review is going on for because I really like this film. It's a great start to 2026. I mean, this is going to be in my top 10 of the year, I don't doubt. I'm really surprised by how good it is in terms of Garland's recent output because he wrote 28 Years Later, which I really liked, not as much as this, but he also wrote and directed what I think is probably the worst film of 2025, which was Warfare, which we talked about in another video. So it's really fascinating to see him seesaw between different levels of quality. But 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple is, I think, already a contender as one of the better films of this year, looking at what's ahead. It's certainly the best film in the series. It tops the last film. It's very highly recommended. I would strongly advise watching the previous film first to give some context. This is definitely a part two. But this is a terrific film, very highly recommended.